Shut up and sit down.
It's where the big boys play. SICW.
Welcome to Square Read Podcast, everybody. Episode number 83. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. It is all about Belleville's own Bobby D tonight and his cage matches. How's it going, guys?
Not too bad, mate. How's your volume going?
Well, I'm hearing fine on my end, and everything is going well, but...
I just had to give you some shit because I can hear Bobby fine, and of course I can hear myself, but you're still keep going and out, so just wanted to play around there for a second. So not a bad week. Start to a good week. We came off of a great show Saturday night, helping the kids from Breeze, and it was our first time going there. And I tell you, it was a blast. And we both were victorious. I had a match against Waco again, kind of shutting him up. And then you, of course, had the cage match. I tell you, 2 main events back to back. It's not a bad thing going on.
And both cage matches.
I got a little mark there and another one over here. They're adding up. The cages aren't very nice to you.
Yeah,
and that's just stuff you can see.
Not ours. There's really no give to our cage. It's just pure steel. So it's not like the fence, the old school fence cage.
That's what these cuts are only the things you can see. That that doesn't even get into the muscle pains.
So I think Nathan wants to show a clip of a previous podcast. Kind of some bad news podcast, but go ahead and show that clip if you got it up.
I do. We've had a bit of an issue where another reason why this is a Bobby D podcast. Well, we'll let you say it in your own words, Bobby.
So it was my interview from the other day at the Paramount City show, where it was before the show actually, challenged Glenn Williams to a cage match. If he wants to keep having, when you see the match before, when you go back and watch it, you see the interference from Sean Vincent and the selfie stick and the rope break that the ref missed and all this. So I requested a cage match. Nobody else can get involved. There ain't nothing. Basically, it's going to be me and him one-on-one. That's it. And he's coming back with his interview saying that's fine as long as it's not pinfall and submission only. He wants to be able to escape the cage. Or he wants to be able to beat me by running away.
So I would tell you, make sure when you get in the cage, you run up to him and grab him and keep him in there, because the first thing he's going to do is try to climb out of that cage and get out of there.
Oh, that's just where I'm going to have to break that leg.
There you go.
That didn't happen.
You know what? I got to sweeten the deal a little bit. I am confident enough in my win this Saturday night at the Shriners in this cage match that if I lose, Glenn Williams can take my place on one podcast for us.
Well, I'll tell you what. I like this betting thing, and I have confidence in you. So if you win, everything will be normal. If you lose, I'll have Kowalski take my spot. That way, the P. Diddy of professional wrestling will have
kept that in there.
Glenn Williams on the same podcast.
He's gonna have to get.
All right, that was the challenge, and then we moved.
See, what had happened was, I thought it was pinfall submission or escape. I didn't know it was only escape.
Oh, really?
We'll let the match speak for itself, and you guys get to commentate this match also. This is at the Shriners, everybody. This is the complete cage match we're going to be watching. Doing a little sizing up.
Yeah, it's a great venue there. I mean, you can see the big stage and the curtains back there, and I mean, you don't really get to see how big the whole arena is. Hey, like you called it right there. He tried to run as soon as the bell rang.
I knew he would. It was just going to be a given.
Yeah,
But yeah, venue is beautiful. I wish we can, hold more cards in that building. And we said it before. It's just where it's located is, just a downfall for it. But we talked to the guy that's in charge now, and he's going to try to do some things to get his Shriners to come through. And we talked about they do like putt there, and then when they do that, it sells out, and people's parking down the street, and that's what we want to do for the wrestling show.
Well, 2 venues next year, isn't that what you were saying?
well, it helps too. They're moving they've already booked us for next year, and they're moving the month on when they're doing it as well. So that might help them.
And I think they're talking about even moving it earlier than what they normally do.
Yeah.
And the cameraman needed to get the guy with the cowboy hat out of the way.
Well, we heard that. Anyway, so this is what Glenn's attacking you from behind there. Or you try to escape the cage there.
Oh, that's how you gotta win. That's how you gotta win.
Right.
Were you afraid he was going to do something else because he was trying to get you from behind?
I don't know what he said.
Yeah, you cut out so bad on that.
I said, were you trying to run out? Were you trying to run out because you were afraid he was going to do something? He was getting you from behind.
No, like I try to win as quickly as you can. I mean, the title's on the line.
And getting him from behind, that's normal. So it's not. He's not afraid of that.
Mr. 55-gallon drum of all baby oil.
I shouldn't open the door for that. I mean, he was getting beat up. Not like he was trying to escape.
That seemed more like a push, not a chop.
Well, he did post a picture with the title afterwards, and it did look like there's some bruising on his chest.
No doubt.
Yeah, he definitely had some handprints going across his chest. Oh, look, he's trying to give you some, but you can just tell that he's like, oh, depressed because his suck.
Kind of like his lariat.
Right, just like his lariat.
I heard he had the greatest lariat. That's what he told me.
Oh, yeah?
So you see, we've all tried to take advantage of the cage there a few times. Force some hair pulling. Expect nothing less from him.
How come you didn't pull his hair?
I think I did pick him up by his beard once.
Man, those kids were great.
So, to give a little backstory on Glenn, this is his very first cage match. So you can kind of see that he's kind of lost. Like, he doesn't know what to do. Never really worked a cage, so, he's not, like, using the cage too much, which, anyone who's worked a cage match knows that cage could be your friend or your enemy. But while you're in control, it's definitely your friend, and you can use that to your benefits. And he's clearly not doing that. I mean, he might, run your head in there once, but then, he goes back like that. Now he's kind of just showing off.
Well, that's his arrogance. That shows in every match of his. And there's been a few times you can see where we tried to bash each other's head in there, and it was blocked as I mean, everybody knows it doesn't feel good, so you dig a little deeper to block those.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
I don't know. I think he kind of failed because the kids weren't even intimidated by him.
Oh, those kids there, they kept asking me to chop them, so I was trying to help them out.
There you go.
See, they asked for it again.
Now this is just a classic here, and it worked like a charm. Anytime you can like see or saw, that move to get them to fly up into the cage. And there you go, working the sharpshooter.
Yep, and again, no submissions.
Oh, here comes your other buddy.
And then, I said, then you see his buddy coming out now. See, he's tapping out. I should be champion right now. Should be the end of it. You see, he's kind of sitting over there towards that door, so I decided to try to go up and around away from him, but of course he comes on over.
Hey, Aim, can you shut that door?
Yeah. No. Backflip. Backflip.
I say, and again, as you see all the little kids there, they're yelling at me to jump on them, so I foolishly decided to. Got a little motivated from the little guys.
You just didn't
work out.
You didn't spot your target first.
Oh, he rolled in. I mean, he was spotted. That's why it's called high risk, I guess.
It's a good show. Good show. Just a belly bomb that hurt you more.
I do see that the kids keep getting all over Trent Daniels there, yelling at him. So they're on my side trying to keep him at bay. But of course, fans do not try to interfere. And he got the cage that time.
Did Glenn have something in his hand there? Is that what cut
He
you
grabbed
or the
back of my
cage?
head. He grabbed the back of my head and ran me into the cage after I ducked his clothesline.
Almost looked like when he threw you, he expects you to come back. But like I said, that again is just his non-awareness of working the cage.
Well, and even at that, because we've worked in chain link cages too, there is a little bit of a bounce back like a rope on a chain link. These are solid welded steel bars. There's no bounce back. You'd have to have give for bounce back.
These are heavy segments. So what's he saying there? His title?
What's that?
So what was he saying there? His title?
No.
I say, I don't know if you can really see it there, but this is about when I sprung a leak, I think.
Yep, you're bleeding. Look at that puddle.
That's a good way to put it. Sprung a leak.
Yeah, there I was trying to wipe it off my hand. Or fling it off my hand.
I just can't believe they let him. Well, I guess it was your challenge, so that was his way of getting a stipulation on the challenge, I guess. But, all the cage matches for SICW has always been a submission or a pin. And this is the first time I can ever recall it being listed where
I said, just cut you off real here. There should also be another escape right here, and then you got outside interference. Trent Daniels coming back and closing the cage on me. That should be another win. What's that, like number 2, 3?
I am curious why you went for the pin, though.
Normally we do a pinfall or submission. Escape is not the the norm when we do them. It's to keep people out and to settle it in the ring. But, you know, he wanted to be the best at running away.
He just wanted to do what he's good at.
Little bit of a sandwich. At this
Can't go wrong
point,
with a
why
good
didn't you
sandwich.
escape at this point?
You get in the heat of the moment on things, and you don't always think straight. You just think about inflicting damage, and you also got to remember, we wrestle how many times a year where every single match is pinfall or submission. That's ingrained in your brain. Escape's not the first thing you typically think of. Like, there are several times where you can see where I go for the submission or go for the pin, but that doesn't count for anything.
Well, it counts on your own scorecard.
Oh yeah, this did not feel good. The Uranagi.
Well, half of one, Jim was saying he's supposed to go down with you.
If he was doing a rock bottom, the Uranagi style, you stay up.
Well, there he goes. He's trying to escape.
But I can tell you, my head bounced off that canvas, and it did not feel good. I definitely seen some scars. That's why about the most I can get up right now is just to grab him. I ain't even all the way up.
A little bit of a concussion going on.
And very well could have been.
Uh-oh, you see that? He's hulking up. Oh, there. I was expecting that finger to go, you!
Time to dye that stash blonde.
Hey, I'm going to throw a tidbit out there. Hogan was in the news, well, in the wrestling world this past weekend. He was being interviewed by another guy on a podcast, and he talked about how when he was popular, you know, in the 80s and 90s, that he had to turn down Cher, the singer Cher, because she was trying to get with him, and he was married. And she even sent a car to go, like a limousine to go get him, and he declined it. And then in the 90s, he was wrestling in New York.
Is that the only girl he's ever turned down while married?
Well, so in the 90s, he says that he was wrestling in New York, and Madonna was doing a concert in New York. And no, it was her birthday. She was celebrating her birthday, and she sent a limo driver to go pick up Hulk Hogan, and he declined that one too. But yeah, so everyone's like laughing at him, like, yeah, like Madonna wanted something to do with you, and like Cher wanted something to do with you, but
So he only turns down the famous ones.
I guess.
Yeah,
But
I'm not buying that they sent cars for him.
Yeah, the Hogan stories get a little. I mean, even though growing up as a little Texan, you know, he was my idol. I've come to know that his stories get a little crazy and a little
And
wild.
there's the blow. Straight kick to the nuts.
Man, you're getting it on
That'll
both
stop
heads.
any momentum. So that'll stop any momentum you got going.
I thought you were made of steel, Bobby.
Not down there. I said, I don't know if you saw it there. Trent just gave him some knuckles, brass knuckles. He dropped them. I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to go ahead and put these on myself. Turnabout's fair play, right?
It is.
And then Trent opens the damn door on him and he falls out. Giving Nathan the joy of doing a podcast with Glenn and Kowalski.
Yeah, the heel takeover at the squared ring. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I sent the email out, to Herb, and Herb is actually going to try to get to talk to Kowalski and talk to Glenn about what a good day it would be for both of them to come on the podcast. So, not too sure when Doomsday is going to happen, but I'm sure as soon as we know, we'll let Nathan know. And but yeah, so that stipulation that we both agreed on, unfortunately, is coming true. That Kowalski and Glenn Williams are doing a takeover on the podcast. A podcast that I might tell you is going up on subscribers. We got like 15 in the last week, so we're definitely moving up. The shadow band is definitely off. So thank you guys for subscribing and thank you guys for watching. Just want to do a little shout out before we kicked on to this one. Now, this one, I'll tell you, when Herb Simmons put this one on this week's show, I sat and watched this, and I have YouTube like everyone else on the TV, so I was able to watch it, really good and clear. And man, I cannot believe this match. It was hands down probably one of the best cage matches I've ever seen.
Well, he's helped. No, we're just saying he screwed me over for that title shot cage match. So a little bit more motivation going into this one. Well, not more, but a lot of motivation.
That and for people
Cool.
watching, we're going to have both the cage matches in their entirety after the podcast goes up on Thursday. So Thursday, 8:30, this podcast will go up, and at 3 and at 4, the cage matches will go up so you can watch them on your own.
So the cool thing about this cage match, just one of the cool things about it, is this is the first time in Breeze, and Herb likes to bring a legend or two to some of these places. It's the first time, try to get the fans in, wanting to see the legend, and he brought in Bob Orton Jr. For this night in Breeze, and I tell you. In the beginning of the show, he had a long line of people trying to get his autograph and his pictures. I seen little kids with the wrestling figures still in the box, having him sign them and stuff. So it was definitely a cool thing that Herb did. And then somewhere along the lines, I don't know what happened. Glenn talking or Trent was talking, and then they were like, you know what? We are going to put Bob in the cage with you guys, and he will call it right down the middle. And so it was very cool, I think, that you guys had Bob as the special guest referee.
That's what I have a picture saved of Bob raising my hand at the end. Spoiler, I won. Bob raising my hand, and that's one of my favorite pictures.
There you go.
All right, let's get into it. So after your last match, you requested from Herb to have Trent in the cage this past week.
I didn't even request it; it was gifted.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of sometimes being the yes man, doing whatever's asked of you. Sometimes you get rewarded with favors.
Right.
And also, this one is our regular rules that we discussed. This is pinfall and submission. Escapes do not count.
Even though I do think Trent kind of forgot about that because immediately he starts trying to climb out.
He didn't want to be locked in the cage with me. I can't blame him.
And there goes the padlock.
All right, wrestling fans, I'm Drew Abbotthouse. We are here. It is your main event.
And that's Dr. Drew commentary.
As you see, hashtag trending, Trent Daniels locked inside the steel cage with Bobby D. And you might notice a very special guest referee. It's the one and only, the WWE Hall of Famer, Ace Cowboy Bob Orton, in here to make sure.
And there's again one of those times where I kind of listened to the crowd, and it panned out better this time. But listen to the crowd. Those kids were yelling at me to body slam them, so I picked them up and did it.
It's always nice when you only have to wrestle one person.
Bobby D met Glenn.
Listen, I think you did those chops on the rebound that night too. Might have seen that and taken that from you.
Daniels interfered right in that cage match. Bobby wanted to get a little bit of revenge on Trent Daniels for his interference for sticking his nose into Bobby's business. Nice practice from leg whip from the Belleville.
He called it a leg lift? Leg whip?
Belleville, ladies and gentlemen, it is this upcoming Saturday, November the 2nd. We will be back at the Belle Claire Fairgrounds in Belleville, Illinois. Look at this, Bobby King.
Usually you lift up guys a lot heavier. That had to be like a feather with Trent. He's like, what, 150 soaking wet?
Huge matchup Saturday in Belleville. Oh, what's Bobby D got?
Go higher, you wuss.
I'm working on it. I really wanted to hurt him, all right? He really made me mad for costing him my top.
The top of the cage. Oh, standing high above the ring.
How's your knees, Bobby?
Might have taken a little too. It's a little
Again,
too.
all my muscles hurt all over.
Daniels is a little too
When
fresh.
I seen that, I was like, thank God he didn't break his legs.
Obviously,
Because Edge just did that off of a steel cage.
of that
And he
base.
missed his opponent and ended up shattering his ankles.
Well, that's the hard part of it. You see your opponent starting to roll, and being so much higher than on a rope, you have that little bit of extra time to try to kind of brace your fall, but not quite enough to, stop it all the way.
As I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, this upcoming Saturday.
That was
November
perfect. You
2nd,
stopped when he took up.
The event is a captain's match. A coward waves the flag match. You will see Attila. His corner man will be the Merchant of Violence, Stephen E. taking on Gary Jackson. Gary Jackson will have Danny Boy Hawkins.
He stick his knee on my chest and then lift my leg up for the pin. That was a weird looking pin.
Yeah.
He must be getting his cues from Glenn.
He will have to wave it when
I mean, you think about it, it takes away space and makes it tighter. I'm gonna have to try to steal that myself.
is the flag for Attila.
Always learning, right?
Won't wave the flag for
Oh, yeah, I could hear him while he's doing this. He's yelling at Bob, says, "This is for your son," as he's doing the Randy Orton stomp.
We'll choose the
A little bit of kissing ass as he's doing it.
When Team SICW of Ron Powers, Gary Jackson, and Danny Boy Hawkins take on Attila Khan, Haku, and the Barbarian, known as the Faces of Death. November the 23rd, the winner of the Texas match this Saturday.
Little blue thunder bomb there.
23rd.
I wonder if Dr. Drew's really excited. This is the third time in your match he's mentioned the 2nd and the 23rd.
Bobby D almost had this one where he wanted it. Trent Daniels showing his toughness every time we see him here. Oh, somebody's busted open. It's Trent. Did he wipe Bobby's blood on his chest? And look at this. Look at this. I talked about how Trent Daniels interfered in the cage match between Bobby D and Glenn Williams recently at the Shriners Temple. Now, Glenn Williams looking to return the favor. Glenn Williams growling at ringside.
I didn't think you bled on this one.
Out of the cage.
You got to begin to think that Bobby's got really thin skin for a forehead.
Again, it was a week ago that it just got busted open. Not much recovery time there.
But will be decided by pinfall or submission. The match between Bobby D and Glenn Williams at the I-9
Look at that, Jim. It looked like your son wants to get involved.
school. And you had to climb up and over
Oh, my son was just trying to make sure that
Kick
the
the
key
leg.
the match. This is
wasn't going to come out.
There is no escape.
2 weeks in a row, your jewels are getting hammered. Good thing you don't want to have kids anymore, Bobby.
I am stiff, so 3's enough for me.
Bobby selling the undercarriage.
If you weren't before, you are now after the past 2 weeks.
And Daniels
Just making sure that the doctor did his job right.
moment. Here's where Trent's probably questioning his decision to accept this match. If he could have escaped through the door or climbed out of here, I think he would have done so by now. Trent was trying to get away from Bobby.
I don't know, Bobby. You going to enter Dr. Drew on that one? Were you regretting or questioning your choice to get in the ring? In the
This
cage?
wonderful crowd.
Oh, he definitely was trying to get out of there. I don't think he was too happy about being in there.
Firmly behind Bobby D.
And don't get me wrong, as you can see, like Trent Daniels, he can compete. He can slip some stuff in there like just as good as anyone else in our locker room.
This has been a fantastic crowd here in Breeze, Illinois, all night long.
Right there, he threw that big punt kick right out of nowhere.
Fans, if you had a great time here tonight, or if you were in Breeze and you had a good time at the show, let everybody know you want SICW to come back again. We would love to come back again. And this is a good time to give a very special shout out to Mr. Don Hyman. Don sweated, blood, sweat, and tears making this event happen. He was selling tickets from his hospital bed. Unfortunately, Don unable to attend this amazing show here in Breeze. But we miss you, Don.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. The guy that put on this show,
We hope
literally the Friday before Saturday, went into the hospital for emergency surgery. He had something going on with his intestines, so he was not able to make it to the show.
Their support firmly behind
Man, that's unfortunate.
Trent Daniels.
Yeah.
Is he doing all right now, though?
You can't win that way.
Supposedly the surgery was a success. So he's still, I don't know if he's still in there, but probably just to make sure he's doing good.
Would be almost impossible. Look at this. Bobby D, huge suplex, bringing
Nice move. Painful for you both, yeah.
Inside
Yeah.
the ring.
You see, I don't pop right back up.
Nope. Probably jiggle the jewels, they're still sore.
Bobby,
Herb
this
said
is
Bob was still talking about that suplex on the way home.
for several moments. I know he's hurting, but he's got to dig deep.
Yeah, I've been watching Bob. It looks like half the time he's forgetting he's a ref and just enjoying the match.
Bobby blocks the punch, stops the two of his own. Daniel sent head first into the cage. Make it twice. Glenn Williams.
Jordan, go push the cage.
Bobby D's got Daniels where he wants him. He's punishing out Trent.
Pretty good grip strength to grab that right after being tossed.
Hits him with a power slam.
So close again.
Breeze, Illinois thought that might have been it.
It should have been it. That was a great slam, though.
Keep the momentum going. Has to capitalize. Oh, Daniels reversed that move. Right back into the cage.
And there he's calling for Glenn. He's got those brass knuckles again. What do you know?
10 minutes down, 10 minutes.
Got some deja vu going here.
You heard me, folks. We
Except for
are
there's one big difference.
You have an Uno reverse
We have a
card.
referee in this one.
limit. Oh! Cowboy
Bob said, not today.
Knuckles. Cowboy Bob stopping it. Bobby D nearly connects.
That one was almost an under rotation.
No, I tried to drop him on his head.
I was gonna say, you got the job done.
Yeah,
Your
damn
winner,
close.
Bobby D.
The match is somewhat over, but we're going to keep watching because there's extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
this
of course, Glenn has to stick his nose and stuff. He thinks just because Bob did his training that he's going to bend to his darker ways.
Folks, I thought that was it. I announced the winner as Bobby D. But no, Glenn Williams. Right hand to Big Nasty. Right hand to Trent Daniels. Yeah! Cowboy Bob sending his former student first into the cage. Bobby D putting an exclamation point on Trent Daniels' forehead.
You're raising Bob's hand for the match win?
He knew the people.
Then he ran his mine. It works together.
Yeah.
Loving it. Cowboy Bob's loving it. To be honest, I'm loving it. Ladies and gentlemen, Cowboy Bob raising
I could just give me a Gatorade there.
Trent Daniels tonight in Breeze, Illinois.
So definitely a great cage match there. I mean, it had all the high spots. It had, you know, so much back and forth. It was very having Bob, you know, there to kind of call it down the middle and interfere when he had to. You know, taking the brass knucks away. You know, making it a fair match, and then allowing the pin to happen. So that was a great. Like I said, I was watching that, and you know, at this point at the show, I was already in the back, you know, changing, so I didn't get to watch the match. But you can just hear the crowd, you know, from the locker room, and you know, Bobby totally had the crowd behind him the whole time. But as soon as that victory happened, you know, you can just hear the pop, you know, and I was so glad that Herb was able to get it right on to the TV program, because normally, you know, what happens one week won't get seen for a week or two. But you know, I don't know if you've seen the SICW show, Bobby, this past Sunday, but it was basically all about you too, because they had that cage match, and then immediately right after the cage match, it had you versus Rick Ruby. And you know, of course, Rick Ruby is 400 some odd pounds guy too, you know, and you were able to do. I think you did a crossface on him.
I wasn't sure I could lift them ham hocks up to put them in a sharpshooter.
So definitely, it was very cool to see that match, you know, played, so I could see the whole thing. And now we just got to figure out, when do you get that, you know, title shot again? You know, we've been talking about the November 2nd show, and feeding into the November 23rd show. We really don't know, at least I don't know. I don't know if you know what the rest of the card looks like. We know the main event on the 2nd. You know, that's going to be, again, Gary Jackson versus Attila Khan. And
Captain's Flags match.
Yep. And that's going to determine who's going to get that special stipulation for the 23rd. And we all know who's coming in on the 23rd. Basically, the Faces of Fear, or what they like to call, is it the Faces of Death now? You know, Haku and Barbarian, along with Attila, going against what we like to call the band, which is, you know, Ron Powers, Danny Boy, and Gary Jackson. So it'd be interesting to see who gets the stipulation on the 2nd, and what the stipulation is, and how it's going to pertain to the 23rd, because it comes down to the 23rd on if Stephen E gets control of SICW or if the control stays with Herb Simmons. So,
And I tell you, we're pulling for Gary anyway because we want it to stay with her, but I think we really need that in our favor because as we've seen over the past couple of years, Haku and Barbarian are still wrestling. Like
right.
they're not weekly wrestlers, but they're still wrestling. When is the last time Danny Boy and Ron Powers got in the ring?
Well, it's been longer for Danny Boy. He hasn't wrestled probably since he won the Classic Championship. Because I think as soon as he lost it, he had an injury and that pulled him out. Ron kept going for a little bit, and then
There's definitely been some time for ring rust to set in.
Oh yes. Now the one thing I will say, the Ron that we see now is definitely a slender Ron than what we had back in the day. So he's definitely kept in shape, but we all know there's a difference between being in shape on the outside of the ring and being in shape in the ring. In the ring.
I was gonna say you also have that other factor with Ron too, where that switch does go off and he goes a little nuts like Barbarian and Haku.
Right.
So don't count anything out on him either, because the dude can lose it in there.
Right. But those are our next two shows and our last two shows because we always take the month of December off. So, the 2nd of November, and both shows were back at the Belleville Fairgrounds. So, back to our normal time, doors open at 6, show starts at 7. There's only one other match that I know of because Herb has posted about it. It's going to be Lilith Khan's very first singles match. We had. We've seen her in that tag team match. We've seen her what she can do. But this time, I guess it's more of seeing what she can do by herself. So she's going to take on Searcher's daughter from ACW. And her name escapes me. I think it escaped me the last time we talked about this too. But it's going to be very interesting to see what she can do by herself because she's still like a con, where she's going to wreak havoc and take control of the whole situation, or how's she going to act? We don't know. But those are the only two matches that we know that are set in stone for November 2nd. But hopefully, before the year is out, we can add some more gold somewhere along the lines. I have yet to have my rematch with Kowalski. Seems like he keeps dodging me here. And would love for Bobby to get a hold of the Central States title again. I still got the Shriners Championship. So we still got a little bit of gold to show off on the podcast. But like Nate says, we need it all.
I am a greedy bastard.
Nice. If you can get a rematch, or I can get a rematch before the year is up. But so that was the night of Bobby in the cage match. Great match. I like I said before, that was a great match, great cage match. On the news, basically in the wrestling world, the big thing that was popping off on the internet today that TNA had kind of put it out there that they had tried to, Bound for Glory is coming up for TNA, and that's always their biggest pay-per-view. And TNA had reached out to WWE because AJ Styles was definitely a TNA player. He's won their championship. He's won their X Division champion. I think he was a tag title holder out there as well. So they had reached out to TNA. TNA reached out to WWE to see if they could put AJ Styles into their Hall of Fame. Now, like Sting's in their Hall of Fame, Kurt Angle's in their Hall of Fame, which Kurt Angle just signed a Legends deal with WWE. But that's besides the point. They reached out to them, and WWE denied it. they won't let him go into their Hall of Fame. So that was like the big top story today that everyone was talking about. That you know, AJ Styles had tried out for the WWE when he first was getting going. When he was in it was the NWA, but it's a different Wild Side is what they used to call it.
I
That
bet
was a
he
different,
even went into WCW as Hairstyles.
right. And he tried out for WWE. They wanted to sign him, but it required him to move, and he didn't want to move because his wife was a school teacher, and he didn't want to mess up her dream because that was her dream to be a school teacher. So he stayed. He went to TNA because that's where they were living, because their main focus was down in Tennessee and the Florida area, very close to home that he can just leave and come back home. Um, and so he stayed with TNA for the longest time, and he was a diehard TNA guy. Uh, However, he wasn't making great money. They were definitely paying, towards the end of like his run in TNA, they were bringing in Hogan, they were bringing in Eric Bischoff and Kevin Nash, and they were all making more than him, and he thought that was wrong because he was with TNA when it first started, and he thought, and clearly he should have, because he's a main event player regardless. He should have been making more money. So eventually he decided to leave TNA and went to New Japan. And then from New Japan, he went to WWE. But, I mean, he had a tenure down in TNA. So you would think with the partnership right now, because, WWE is using Jordan Grace and using, I can't think of the guy's name, but when you say his name, he appears.
Joe Hendry.
So you would think with them using those guys from TNA that they would have a better working relationship.
JBL's been showing up there.
JBL, matter of fact, JBL showed up Saturday in the main event match. It was Joe Henry versus Nick Nemeth, and Nick is their champion, and JBL showed up and clotheslined Joe Henry. So. But then again, we don't know if JBL is signed to WWE right now or if he's not, because he's shown up at a lot of places. He showed up at GCW. He showed up at TNA. He showed up at other local feds. So I don't know. Normally, WWE don't like their guys to go out to any other places. But then again, over the weekend, Triple H had announced that he was more open to working with other promotions, which brings me back full circle. Why won't you let AJ Styles go into their Hall of Fame? It doesn't make any sense to me. AJ, I'm pretty sure, will probably end up in WWE's Hall of Fame because, he's already built a legacy in WWE. He's a multi-time world champion for WWE, and definitely is a high merch seller because I remember when he came back. Well, not when he came back. When he came into the WWE in that Royal Rumble, and everyone just was popping because they kept him hidden. They weren't letting people know that he was there, and he was a surprise entrance. And the fans immediately got behind him, and he was able to win a championship pretty quick. Speaking of people winning championships pretty quick, and I wish all day today while I was at work, I was telling myself I need to go home and get my pictures out because there was a weekend that I actually worked for TNA. They used a lot of local wrestlers as like bodyguards and chaperones for TNA when they came to town, and that's the very first time I got to meet Hulk Hogan. And I was like security guard for Hulk Hogan, and I was security guard for a couple other wrestlers. But I got to meet, now see, my brain has Motor City Machine Guns. And those two in TNA, hands down, those two were great tag team champs. well, they were tag team champions too, but it was a great tag team. They were high flyers, but they also did a lot of very hard hitting matches. And I was able to meet them. And even though I was working for TNA for that weekend, they gave us a stack of pictures from everyone that was going to be there at because we worked a meet and greet, we worked a show, and then it was like a 2-day affair. We were working both days. Um, and so they gave us a stack of all the old pictures of everyone that worked that show, and I got them to sign their pictures, and I was going to bring that out to show everyone. But over, I think it was Friday, they had just, and to backtrack again, in TNA they split up, and one of them left the company, and there was only one for a while. And then magically they got back together, but in a smaller fed. And then all of a sudden they popped up into NXT. They signed with WWE, and then from NXT they popped up on SmackDown. And the Bloodline actually had the titles at the time. As a matter of fact, it was Haku's kids. So it's Tama Tonga and Tonga Loha.
Loa.
Yeah, Loa. Those were the tag champions. And due to Jay Uso's little interference, the Motor City Machine Guns took the straps. So that was very cool.
Jay Uso cheated.
Yeah. So I mean, it was cool that Haku's kids lost. Just like Haku and Barbarian's going to lose on the 23rd in Belleville. Kind of premonition, I guess you would say. But it was very cool to see Motor City Machine Guns because I knew they were a great tag team in TNA, and I always thought that, man, if they would just move up to WWE, everyone wants to work for WWE because that's where the money is. And they were, on the independents for a long time, finally made it to TNA. And then they did great in TNA, but then they kind of it was a lackluster thing. And so they split up, went their own different ways, and then bam, they're back together, and then finally they made it to WWE. So hopefully they have a long run, makes a lot of money, so they can retire, and they'll be the one tag team out of many that has done it all. So that was, I think, very cool. Let's see, I talked about Hulk Hogan. Sad note, and I had brought it up before. I think it was either in the last week's or the week before's podcast about how Ric Flair and his current wife split up. His current wife is Wendy. Now, they're still split up. I don't think they got divorced per se yet, but over the weekend, Wendy's son, which would be Ric Flair's stepson, committed suicide, shot himself. And so there's a video of Ric Flair talking about it. And, Ric Flair is a very emotional guy right now. Well, he's been for a while, for the last few years. I mean, he almost died. Wendy stayed by his side while, the doctors, got him to come back to life. And for her son, I hate to say it, but when I first heard about it, I was like, money doesn't make everyone happy. Something had to go wrong with this kid's life because he should have had it all, being the stepson of Ric Flair, the legendary Ric Flair. We talk about how much money that guy has. He's got so many companies now. He's got that weed company that he sells out of. He sells his merchandise on a website that everyone buys from. And for his stepson to commit suicide, I just don't know. And I guess it's a thing that no one knows what someone's going through. Because first thing I thought about is, man, that guy should have been living the life, but evidently something was wrong there. So,
Yep, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. A little dated here, but Robin Williams, like when he committed suicide, and he always seemed so happy in every interview and everything, and he had money.
Right. Yeah. So, and I guess depression is a very bad thing, and you never know what creates it. You never know what someone's going through. But yeah, Robin Williams, that one hurt too. That guy was so funny. Mrs. Doubtfire was probably one of his best movies. Loved him in Jumanji. Loved him in Aladdin as the voice of that bird. So it was very weird that he committed suicide. But they said, and he even said too that when he was first getting in the comedy role and then into acting, that he had a very bad addiction, and he said that messed him up a lot.
You trying to tell us something there, Jim? You're talking about his addiction, and then
yes, telling you without telling you. But yeah, a lot of suicides, a lot of famous people. Linkin Park's lead singer, Soundgarden's lead singer. So I don't know. I guess word of wisdom is be kind to everyone because you never know what that person's going through. But let's not end it on a negative
Except
note.
for Glenn Williams.
yeah.
Well, if it happens, it happens.
I just mean don't be nice to him. I didn't mean for him to commit suicide. You don't have to be nice to Glenn Williams.
Any wrestling finds? You get a new box, Bobby?
What's that? Oh, no, they come on the 1st. Just got charged to my account, so maybe on next week's show.
There we go. I have not had any time to do anything really. So I have not got anything new. My son though, my son actually gave me all of his wrestling cards. See, you know how I tell you, like my sons, they always wanted to go with me to all the wrestling shows when they were little, but when they reached a certain age, they would drop off, but the next one would come. And Dylan was the last one. And I tell you, Dylan probably has as many wrestlers as I do. Of course, it's all the newer ones that, and I say newer, they're probably 10 years old, 15, 20 years old, because they were the wrestlers that he grew up. And he's got them all in a box, and I was looking through them, and they're all like young versions of CM Punk and young versions of Brock Lesnar. And I'm thinking, those are probably going to go up here pretty soon too, because he's probably got 10 things of CM Punk, figures. And like he has outgrown them. They have now moved into the basement, and he had he says that he thinks that I bought them for him. I don't remember buying any wrestling cards for him. I do remember buying wrestling figures, but evidently he had grown a nice collection of wrestling cards, and so he gave those to me. So that's my newest thing, but I have not gone through them. It's a big binder, but I have not gone through them yet to see what all he's got in there. Now, back in the day, I'll tell you, WWF, not WWE, but WWF did a 22 karat gold cards.
I remember those.
Those were mailaways that you had to sign up for, and I have a whole complete collection of those. I need to break those out too, just to relive everyone from that. And when my brother came to town this last time, I guess it was kind of last year, he had brought me another set that he was in Kansas collecting them for me. And so he brought me a second set. So now I got 2 sets of these 22 karat gold WWF wrestling cards. So that's kind of cool. But nothing new on my end per se, but definitely still out there looking, because all the stuff that I'm looking for now is going to cost me money. So I got to pick and choose what I'm wanting to get, because I always try to search, and I hate it when you search on like eBay or Amazon, and you finally make this decision to buy it because you think that's going to be the cheapest, and then like a week later you find it on eBay, the same one you bought, and it's like $10 cheaper than what you just bought it for. I hate that when it happens, but and it's happened to me a couple times. But I'm down to the ones that are really expensive, so now I got to really pick and choose when I pull the trigger on them. But definitely loving the collection. I've always talking about how I'm trying to rebuild the collection that I had as a kid, and I don't have that whole collection yet, but I've been picking up things that I never had as a kid. Because I picked up, I think I showed it here once. It's a big, giant Ultimate Warrior, but it's a scale to like the Hasbro wrestling figures. So it's just like a big version of one of the Hasbros. And Hulk Hogan has one too. So I'm looking for that one. And of course, unfortunately, like the Haku of the LJNs, because Haku's figure, I seen them on eBay. I checked it out like a couple nights ago, and loose is still going for $500. So it's one of those things where that's going to be down the line a little bit, unless sometimes you get those eBays where the person is just really needing some money, so he doesn't care what he sells it for as long as he can get it quick, And sometimes you can find them on Facebook like that too, and those, yard sales where people don't know what they got. They're just trying to sell their stuff. Sometimes you can find a diamond in a yard sale too. So I'll always be looking out. So I'm sure I'll have something here pretty soon. But again, I just want to bring it full circle. We talked about it through the podcast about how we increased like 15 or 16 subscribers. So I appreciate the people looking into our shows. I do have a gift that I got from one of our friends of the podcast, Frank Murphy. He had recorded Larry Matisick doing different, I wouldn't say podcasts. Like Larry would do his own show, but just talk about wrestling. And it was like Larry was trying to do his own podcast, but no special guests, and he would just talk about memories, and he would have like a certain subject, and he would just talk about that subject all night. And Frank had recorded all those, and this is when I was, this is early '80s, so this is, I'm like 5 or 6, early in my age. And he recorded all those, and he gave me a copy of all of them. So I'm going to listen to a few, and I'm probably going to pass them along to you, Nate, and we can get those broadcasted because Larry was a great friend, a great promoter, one of the nicest guys I ever met in the wrestling business. And I would love to be able to carry on his name. Every now and then Nate finds a video that Larry's talking through, or talking about, or even interviewing. Like he was interviewing Terry Funk one night, and Bob Orton Jr. one night, and along with Herb Simmons. And those are very cool things to have, and I would love to carry on Larry's name and keep it out there in the open.
Yeah,
So
I have one where Larry is interviewing the Mouth of the South.
Yeah, so, and those would be great. So I want to listen to a couple of them, and then I'm going to pass them on to you so you can do your thing with them, and we'll get those on the air and get those broadcasted. I think that would be very cool. But yeah, that's it, man. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for viewing our content. You know, the matches that Nate's been putting on there with Ric Flair and Briscoe and Bruiser Brody. You know, they're definitely getting the views up. And if you're subscribing off of those matches, thank you. And then you guys are sticking around for the podcast. And a lot of fans and a lot of wrestlers too keep telling me about certain podcasts. And sometimes, like this past Saturday, another wrestler was talking to me, and I didn't know what he was talking about. He goes, "Well, you said it on the podcast a couple weeks ago." I was like, "Oh, you know, it helps trigger my memory too, but it also lets me know that he's watching the podcast. So it's like a win-win. So definitely, you know, spread the news about our podcast. You know, every night, every day when this hits YouTube, you know, I always share it to our Facebook group, and I know Nathan shares it to our Instagram. So definitely, you know, hit all of our social media accounts, and that way our stuff gets shared to everyone, and everyone can listen to it. And you know, too, if you guys comment, let us know if there's other things you want us to talk about. I know it's getting close to Halloween season, so Halloween week. So let's see if we can get. I don't know. It might be a little too late for a ghost tour or something like that, like we were talking about. But you never know. I know the ghost tours kind of go on for a couple weeks after Halloween, and sometimes they pop back up during Christmas season because you know, at least in St. Louis, they pop up during the Christmas week, which is strange to me. But I guess Krampus.
I don't know about ghost tours, but I've taken my oldest son to the Krampus haunted house.
Yeah, so you never know what we're gonna do, but leave us a comment. Tell us what you like about the program, what you dislike. You know, I see the thumbs up, which is great, but I want a little bit more from you. Tell us what you like. But tonight was a special night, all about Bobby D, because he's, I tell everyone, hands down, he's a much better wrestler than I am. And he definitely showed it in his last cage match. You know, I'm very proud of my cage matches that I've had. And I've had my opponents come up to me and afterwards and say, "Damn, that was a hell of a fucking match we had, you know, back then or whenever we had them." So very proud of mine, but hands down, just watching Bobby's from Saturday like blew mine away. So it's definitely worth having you for an SICW show this Sunday. You know, it was all, I like to say it was all about Bobby. And then for us to have a podcast all about Bobby just kind of wraps it up and puts a nice bow on it. And then Nathan, you said that the two videos of his matches are going to be full length on our channel this Thursday as well.
Right, we're gonna give people time to watch a podcast, but starting at 3 o'clock, we'll have the one from last week, and then the week before last, and then at 4, the one with Trent on last week.
Perfect. Yeah, so definitely give those a nice watch. I know we skimmed through most of them and talked about it, but sometimes you guys like to watch it yourself and focus on the match. So definitely do that and let us know what Bobby can do for his next cage match. You know, be fun.
They beat me up, but I have fun.
Yeah, there you go. All right. From everyone from the Squared Ring podcast, I'd like to say thank you, and you guys have a good night.
And Little Texan.
And you guys, oh, what?
I said, and
Little Texan.
from Little Texan.
Yep, and Little Texan.
Right there. There we go. Nice little skeleton with a cowboy hat. Can't go wrong with that. But all right, guys, you have a good night. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.